Welcome back to Doc Lyle Talks Comics, Gents and Scallywags. And what do I have for you today? An initial assessment video. Let's see what we've got. It's Black Star, and this is from Titan Comics by Kristen Crook, Peter Mooney, Eric Putzer, illustrated by Joe Baccardo, colored by Valentina Bianchioni, lettered by David Lentz. Project coordinator is Heath. Okay, that's cool. Heath Amodio. Edited by Jake Devine and designed by Dan Bureau. This book was very interesting. You get this artwork, and a couple days ago I just talked about Spider Noir and how you get to see the city as it's burgeoning and it's not quite what it is now, but you get to see the snow. You get to see, I can imagine this as the opening to something like a Daredevil book. You get to see the opening sky shots of a snow-capped city, a New York City that is almost ground to a halt. So here we get the story of the Order of the Black Star, and it's written in a time where this main character is living in the times of the fur trade. And he comes to find that he has a magnificent power. And that's why he is brought into the Order of the Black Star. And in the end, he wakes up and he steps through this door. And he says, if I know that I go through this door, things would be forever strange. He says, where am I? And where's my friend Cal? And here comes, the Cyclops of the story, and he says, enough. He causes them to stumble back and fall asleep and get trapped by some vines. And this sage-looking character says, I'm beginning to think our guest would like to leave. And he says, we had hoped that you would stay with us, but if that is not your wish, then I will take you home. But instead, he ends up on a mission with this mage, or sage-looking character. And he says, let's see. He said, the character says, how? He says, it's a shock at first, I know. But you know how. You just don't know it yet. And he says, Old Mahoon, I think. And the guy says, the devil? I would have never thought to heard that name come from the mouth of a learned man like you, a man of science. He says, are you familiar with Galton or the atomic theory? No, I am not. Then let me ask you, doctor, what are we made of? Blood and organs. And what are organs made of? Fibers. And those fibers are made of atoms, too small to see. And he says, tiny bits of matter held together by something we don't yet understand. But it is that from that something, the spaces that between, that we draw our gifts. And he says, what is your gift? I bring people together. Everything that you've seen so far was impossible, and yet it was. So ask not how, but why. And you of all people should know this existence is meager, lives filled with cruelty, starvation, and undignified deaths. So he finds his friend Cal, and in the end, they have a falling out, and now he's with the Black Order. I know that wasn't very deep. This book is different. It's deep, but it's different in depth than something like Dead Samurai. Dead Samurai moves forward by not having any kind of narration boxes and letting the artwork do the heavy lifting. This book is almost too verbose, but not to a point of contention, not to a point of upsetting you, but it just gives you kind of everything in that first issue. And it's only 5 issues long, so I understand that they got to get the action moving and they got to get things, popping. But don't give me everything in that first issue. Give me an opportunity to step back and learn these things on my own. I guess maybe they felt that if they didn't give you enough to work with, then you wouldn't be interested enough to work with this particular story and stick with it for 5 issues. It's great, and I'm here for it. I want to check out what Black Star issue number 2 comes out. But by the same token, tone down the verbosity. Don't make it so dense. If you go back and look at some of these pages, the artwork can't really breathe because you've got so much going on behind the scenes. Let your reader kind of follow along, give them just enough to follow along, and then let them build out that world in their mind. That way, it would be so much more entertaining to them to, you know, if you see a picture of a beautiful woman, then the imagination as part of it is gone, okay? You can still imagine being with her and the things that you would do together and the trips you would take and the other things that you would do with her. But you would lose that imagination, that gift that God has given to us to allow us to see these things and then take something in our mind and draw it on paper, to create, to build, to world build. And if you give the reader too little, you get Dead Samurai. You give the reader too much, you get Black Star. So it's good, but it's not great, but I'm waiting for issue 2 to see if things improve. Maybe the verbosity of it will drop a little bit, but in the meantime, I want to see where this is going. So if you get a chance, check it out at your local shop. This is the cover B. They did have a cover A, which was very stark in contrast to this cover. It was by Martin Simmons from Department of Truth, but this was an absolute fun book. And like I said, I'm excited for issue number 2. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Initial Assessment, guys. We got a lot more great stuff coming up, and I hope to see you back then. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe buttons on this, and I'll catch you in the comments.